Hello, everyone, and welcome to MEFG in Conversation, our series dedicated to exploring timely topics with key industry leaders in the innovation ecosystem. My name is Priya Rajan. I'm the Managing Director responsible for national VC coverage at MUFG's Tech Banking Group. Today, I'm super excited to welcome dear friend Vanessa Larco, partner at NEA. NEA is one of the original venture capital firms founded in 1977 and is based out of Menlo Park, California. With over 25 billion in assets under management, the firm invests in companies operating in enterprise, consumer, fintech, life sciences, digital healthcare sectors. Vanessa joined the team in 2016, and she focuses on enterprise and consumer investing. Prior to the venture, she led product teams at Box, Twilio, Disney, and my son's favorite, Xbox. Excited to welcome Vanessa. And Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's so great to reconnect. It's been a while, and so I'm so glad to be doing this with you.
Can you share, before we dive in, can you share a bit about yourself, operator turned VC journey till date, and about NEA and your fund's thesis?
Yeah, so I started in product. I actually started in computer science. I thought I had to be a developer because it was before product management was cool. And then luckily my first internship was in product management and I loved it. And then I thought, this is it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I love building software, designing software, talking to customers, launching it, iterating. I was like, this is the best job on earth. So I came to surprise with everyone that knows me when I took a little bit of a segue into venture. But the idea was that I would just do it for a couple of years. I really wanted to understand how venture capitalists thought because it just didn't make sense to me from the outside. Like I'd see companies get announced on TechCrunch, this valuation. I'm like, really? For that product? Like that company, a product? Like, but the other product's way better. So it just seemed to make no sense. And I was like, I have an opportunity to join a great firm with some amazing mentors. They promised to teach me everything they knew. And I was like, yeah, I need to understand how you people think because it makes absolutely no sense from the outside. And so I joined NEA, like you said, in 2016. And I've been here ever since, which is crazy. It's almost 8 years. And yes, I focus on early stage. I focus on seed, Series A, Series B, but mostly on Series A, although I love seed investing. And my core focus at NEA is B2B SaaS. But I did do half of my product career in gaming and consumer. So I've also done a lot of investing in consumer over the years.
Right. I mean, majority, one of my favorite products. Today's, double click. That's right. If you can talk a bit about NEA and kind of the fund thesis as well.
Yeah. So NEA, we have offices in New York and Bay Area, and we have different team members focused on different sectors. So we have a big medical investing team. They're amazing. And especially now as tech intersects with healthcare more than it used to, this cross collaboration between these two teams have been amazing. We have some folks that are very exclusively focused on consumer, which is great. We have an amazing consumer portfolio with Goop and Jet and a few other amazing outcomes for us. Robinhood is another good one. So we've had a good share, a good running on consumer. And then we have folks that invest in app layer for enterprise, and we have other folks that invest in infrastructure. And the way we think about it is majors and minors. And so it's great because when there's an amazing team that I've known forever, but it's an area I don't understand very well, I'll pull in a partner of mine who has spent all of these time and thesis in that area. And so it's truly collaborative, which is really nice. And we get to pull from all kinds of folks with really interesting backgrounds within the firm. And I think it makes us a pretty strong team. And it's great for the founders too.
And from 1977, so you must have like depth of experience across the teams, across different sectors. So that's incredible value for the founders. Today's topic of discussion, you and I were talking offline, and I loved how you said you come up with having a conviction and how much it matters. The hardest topic of all, how do you build conviction investments? How do you build it over time? And what are some of the factors that influence your belief in building that conviction in an investment?
I think my answer to this question has evolved a lot over the years. I think when I was first starting venture, I was like, well, if it's a cool product, let's do it. Or, if it's a team with this kind of resume, we should do it. But it's gotten way more nuanced since then. I think Well, I always start with a product. I'm a product person. That's my strong suit. I like to find signal in the product engagement and usage data. So my favorite question to ask founders is, what's the benefit for a user using your product? What do they get out of it? If it's cost savings, is it time saved? Is it better vacations? Whatever. Like, tell me what it is, and then tell me how you measure it. And now let's go look at your data and see, are cohorts really hitting those metrics? Are the users really extracting that value? Right? If it's customer support tickets, more throughput, whatever, right? Like, I need to see that that's actually happening. It doesn't have to happen across all cohorts or all demographics, but the one that you're focused on, I need to see that. And once I see that, then I believe. I believe there's like a product market pull. And like that, I need that spark. I need to believe in the product. And then you have to figure out, like, is it a big market size? Is it the right team? Is this the right CEO? Are they going to be able to recruit? So like all the other things that you hear about over and over again. But I tend to generate conviction more so from engagement data than I do from revenue data. I actually feel a lot less excited digging into like revenue numbers, which is crazy for a venture capitalist. It's in our name, right? It's crazy to say that, but it's true.
Interesting. I mean, I think that, that was going to be my question as you were talking about it, like metrics, of course, metrics matter, maybe across stages it's different. So is there any key milestones or metrics, you just mentioned a few of them, that you monitor, like, for example, not, of course, for early to build your conviction, but also to kind of continue to keep that going and build your conviction over time? Is there any double click on some critical product metrics or user engagement metrics that you can share, and what matters to you?
Yeah, Priya, not to be contrarian, but a lot of founders are like, oh, DAU over MAU or 3-day retention or so. And I'm like, why are we forcing these standard metrics? I think it's very much because we want to benchmark companies, but for a lot of companies, those metrics don't make sense. If you're supposed to like set it and forget it, then I don't expect you to have a high DAU over MAU, because the whole promise is that it's just running in the background doing it for you. And so what I like to ask founders is like, what's the North Star? Like, if everything's working, like what do your metrics look like? And then let's customize them to your actual business. Like, let's not use the standard ones that everyone wants to talk about. Let's figure out like what actually matters. Let's get to the core of it. And then let's track those over time. Let's track those and keep ourselves accountable for them. But they're all across the board. So if I was going to pick a generic one, it's like, what's your North Star? Like the North Star metric. It's funny, but like that's the one that I want to uncover and that I want to track.
Yeah. And that's great. And I guess they could build that North Star metrics with you as you are kind of, working with them and kind of mentoring them through that journey. There's always a fine balance. We talk about, balancing the conviction and risk. How do you manage risk, especially like in today's day and age, like it's change, economic times, stimulus times? How do you, and any mitigation strategies that, you employ, like while strongly continuing to believe in a company?
Yeah, I think the one thing I've learned it started in 2020. It was just like Black Swan event after Black Swan event after Black Swan event. And I think
we've become resilient at this moment.
What we've learned is don't freak out. Like step one, right?
Yeah.
You can't tie up your emotions into the macro environment, economic environment, because it has been a brutal place to tie your emotions to for the last 4 years. So I think that, look, step one is remain calm. Second is, do you trust your thesis? Do you still believe the things that you believed last year, the year before? And if not, why not? And then what do we do about it? But I don't think you can like whipsaw your team and your North Star and your product and your customers left and right based on what's happening today. So, for all the founders that I work with, the main focus is the customer. Who's our customer? How are they feeling? What do they need for them to navigate whatever they're facing? And once you flip it on its head of like, this is a hard macro environment, this is our customer, and then you think like, what are their needs? How have they changed? And how do we help them? Surprisingly, it makes it way less scary when you're not focused on yourself and you're focused on helping someone else. You don't realize all the things that are happening to you too. So the folks that have been able to really stay focused on the customer and their needs, I think are the people that, one, navigated it particularly well and have been navigating things, and two, just don't feel tired and are not burning out because it's
Hmm.
a marathon and it's never ending, the twists and turns that we've, and now we have an election. So like it's just never ending. It's not going to, it doesn't seem like it's going to calm down. So this is our new normal. How do we figure out a way to just work within it and not burn out?
That's a great advice to maintain sanity, for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
It, I am not no conversation goes away without talking about AI. But let's take a kind of like a bigger picture of like emerging technologies as a whole. You guys work with some incredible companies and technologies. I mean, way back when to today. What are some of the interesting technologies today that you all are excited about? And given like double clicking on specifically your side, consumer and enterprise, any specific trends that's catching your attention?
Okay, I think everyone's talking about AI. Uh, Absolutely. It is changing everything. It is changing things rapidly, more so user behaviors, which is funny because user behaviors are the things that take the longest to change.
Yeah.
I think user behavior changed rapidly, but processes and teams didn't.
Hmm.
And so I think where I'm excited is we know some of the capabilities, we know the limitations. We know how people are using it today. How do we extrapolate that into how do we make it so that teams and companies can like reliably build processes and adopt this in a holistic way? Because right now it's kind of all in the fringes, it's all around the edges. And so, like, how do we bring it into the core? And I think that's going to take a lot of time for a lot of reasons. And I'm looking for things that actually facilitates that adoption right now. I think we all are.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that matter to you the most is founder investor fit. We talked about and how you have such a close relationship with your portfolio, and that relationship matter. How critical do you think is that alignment? And taking a step back, how does NEA support portfolio companies?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll start with my relationship with founders and that chemistry, and then how does it extend beyond that into the NEA family? Um, but I think it's so important. You're gonna work with the founder and investor are gonna work together for a very, very, very long time. They're, some of the first founders I worked with, it was before I had kids, right? And now like they had kids and I have kids, and like our lives have changed. Like we've moved houses multiple times. Like everyone's life has changed so much since the day we signed that term sheet and agreed to work together. And I feel very fortunate that we've all grown together. We've seen each other grow. I've seen CEOs really step into their roles at those company scale and seen how they've changed as leaders over time. And they've seen how I've changed in my board roles over time as well, right? And there's one founder, him and I joked that I was like a baby VC and he was a baby CEO. We like joined forces, and now we're like grown and weathered with gray hair. So it's amazing to see that evolution, but you want to pick folks that you can have that evolution with. And it's critical because I think building companies, there's so many things that can go wrong and there's so many points of friction. And having a board that's not aligned with you is so much more friction. And what you want to do is remove as much friction as possible. So that's one you can control a bit, right? It's not like macro environments. So picking investors and building a board that you think can have really healthy debate, but are aligned with where you want to go, I think is really important. So I've been very fortunate. I think I have really good chemistry with the founders I work with. And additionally, NEA has just been incredibly supportive. So I think we did a study about 5 years ago that on average, NEA CEO collaborates with 7 to 8 different people within NEA. So I could have an app layer CEO, but they want to look into some infra. Not that they want to sell infra, but they want to like build something themselves or maybe acquire something. So I pull in my partner who's like expert in that area to talk to them. We also have venture advisors who help with coaching, and we just have so many different people with so many different experiences to draw on that I think that can be really beneficial to founders.
And you mentioned before, board, how you kind of work with as a board member. Question around board positions and value. When do you consider having a board seat as essential, and what do you like, I know you take this super seriously and being on, adding right value to the right board. And what does that right value to a right board mean to a company?
Look, it's a big responsibility. I always knew it was a big responsibility because having worked in startups, we all got really tense every time the board of directors came through the door. We're like, okay, let's clean up the office a bit. Let's make it look like we're grown-ups. Like the board is coming in, right? So I having been on the operator side, seeing like what a big deal it was, is helpful because now I know what a big responsibility it is, and also how your words carry more weight than you think they do. And so you just have to be really careful. And you have to be really well prepared, and you have to be there to add value and contribute as much as you can, because people outside of the boardroom are there day in and day out, right? Sometimes on the weekends contributing. So it's an enormous responsibility, to be well prepared and to try to be as helpful whenever, however you can. That kind of reminds me of product, actually. As a product manager, people are like, well, what's the role? I'm like, it depends on who your team is. Like sometimes you need to like be more project managey. Sometimes you need to be more product marketer-y. Sometimes like it depends on what your team needs. You have to be able to fit. Same thing on the board. You have to be able to help where they need your help and not help where they don't. It's like, what's their love language? Like you've got to match them where they are. You've got to be what they need you to be, right? So yeah, I just spend a lot of time trying to figure out where can I be helpful, and that changes over time. And then I figure out, how can I reduce the chances that I'm destructive? Like, I don't want to give bad advice. I don't want to send the team down some kind of rabbit hole where they waste their resources. So, where is my advice like not helpful? And then just keep it in. And I wish more investors would put things in that they are not experts in, right?
It's not easy.
It's not as trivial as it seems. And I look back at like some of my commentary in my early board meetings, and I'm like, oh, cringe.
That's the baby VC. That's the baby VC.
Vanessa. I'm so glad I've matured beyond that. But it is a craft. It takes a while. It takes experience. I'm really fortunate that the founders that I work with are outspoken and they give me unsolicited feedback all the time, which pushes me to get better all the time. And it's just a great relationship. It's a back and forth, right? And I think that's what you're looking for your investors.
100%. And as a closing advice to founders who are seeking conviction from the right investors, what advice would you offer?
I would say don't discount chemistry. Like sometimes like the investor resume looks to match the resume you want, and that startup checks all the boxes for the thesis that you've written about recently. But if there's no chemistry, you're going to be forcing it for years. And so sometimes you meet a founder and like you click and you can almost finish each other's sentences because they see the world the way you see the world, and you've been studying the space so deeply, and then you just know. You also have to realize as an investor, you get to make 1 or 2 deals a year. And you meet a lot of people with a lot of amazing ideas, but very rarely do you have that like click, like, oh, you see the thing that I see, and then now you painted this vision and I totally buy in. And I think we could be amazing together if we partnered. That's the feeling you want. And so if you feel like you're forcing it, or like, I'm going to take this investor because they said the right things and the term sheet's better than this other one that I have great chemistry with, like, just do yourself a favor and go with the one where you're like, we've got a vibe. Let's do this.
Great advice. I'm on a personal question, new mom, how do you do it all? Like, what advice do you have for new parents today to kind of balance it all?
Okay, well, I'm new mom of 3.
Yeah,
so third
That's
time.
Good.
I don't think it's fair.
The question times 3.
Well, I feel like my answer again after first kid would be very different than like number 3. I'm like, you're gonna have to nap in the stroller. Like, we don't have time to go home. So very different answer you're getting third time around than maybe the first time. But I don't know. It feels like a juggle. It's not even a balance. You're just like, whatever is in front of me right now that needs to be taken care of, I will take care of it and make sure it lives and thrives. And then the next thing that needs my attention like slots in. Yeah. And then just honestly, a lot of hours, and you have to love what you do. Like, it's so like I'm technically on mat leave, but I'm talking to you because I love what I do and I love talking about my startups and I love talking about the ecosystem. And so, coming back from mat leave, yes, it'll be hard to leave the kiddos, but
Yeah.
I also feel like such a strong purpose in what I'm doing
Yeah.
that it makes it easier when I like walk out the door and the kids are crying and holding onto my leg. I'm like, don't go on this trip. And I'm like, I gotta, like, you're really important. This is really important too. It makes me happy too. And so I don't know. I think I feel very blessed that I'm doing something that I love to do because it makes it easier to like juggle all. They're all kind of like, I love them all. I don't know.
Yeah. And they're super proud of you today, and they'll be even more proud of you, when they realize actually what you're doing and how you're contributing to the ecosystem. So, super insightful, Vanessa, and really appreciate your time. And thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Awesome. Thank you all for joining us, and looking forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you.